what is his answer? Welcome, Chris. Give us
Who here, if I told you there was a magic pill you could take, and you would wake up the next morning, and for the rest of your life, you would not be nervous when you spoke in public. In fact, you would be so comfortable, you would be as comfortable as when you're sitting in your bed or on your couch watching a movie. You would be that comfortable. Who here would take that pill? Who here would pay big bucks for a pill like that? I know myself and a lot of people would. Unfortunately, that pill does not exist. And it never will. But there's a way we can get better at speaking. You have to learn to speak with the nervousness. A lot of times we come up here and we think when we're nervous it's a bad thing, but it's not. When you're nervous, that means you're getting better. Let's look back to when we first started learning to drive a car. What happened the first time we're in there? We've got our hands on the steering wheel, we're making sure the mirrors are properly aligned, and we're looking at the cars, and we're freaking out because we're worried we're going to wreck. And you're nervous, and then it gets easier and easier. And then you're no longer nervous. Who here has really gotten better at driving in the last 5 years? You do pretty much the same thing. We're not nervous. Now when we speak, we're nervous. That means we're getting a little bit better. One of our members who's not here, his name is Dan Borders, he often talks about a great orator named Winston Churchill. And what he says is, Winston Churchill, after giving one of his first few speeches, he fainted. He fainted. Could you imagine that? How good of a speaker is he? But he fainted after speaking. So what really separates the good speakers from the excellent speakers, from the okay, average, bad, and pretty good, is what you do when you're nervous. What you do with that nervous feeling. Now I could quote someone named Jerry Seinfeld that talks about how the number one fear we all have is public speaking. But since this is a fact-finding report, I don't think quoting a comedian will be quite appropriate. So instead, I'm going to quote Dr. Carly from the University of New York, and she states that the same thing is true. Public speaking is the number one fear of people, over flying, over illness, over terrorist attacks, and over death. We fear public speaking more than everything else. Again, it can be easy and it can be hard to do. Now, there are some advantages when you get up and speak. When you're up here, everyone assumes you're confident. It's almost like a halo effect you have when you're speaking. And when you sit down after a speech, how good do you feel? Woo! Done with that speech, I can relax. Now, not only does speaking make you feel better, it actually is better for your body. There's a study by the American Psychological Association, a 30-year study with 19,000 people. And what they found when you give a speech, it triggers the flight or fight response. And what that does is for that short amount of stress that it puts on your body, it boosts your immune system to twice what it normally is. So think about that. When you come up and give a speech, you may be nervous, but you're also boosting your immune system. So you're making yourself more healthy by coming up here and doing something you don't want to do. Now that you know you're nervous, you have to push through it. What do you do to come up here? Even though you know you're going to be nervous, it's going to be a part of speaking, the nervousness. What would happen if Winston Churchill would have said, I fainted, and I'm not going back up there? No one would know who he is. But he did. He went back up there. So what do? Toastmasters has some recommendations on what you can do to better prepare and be a little less nervous for a speech. What they say to do is, first thing is, know your material very well. And they state, you want to know your audience. Who are you talking to? Know the surroundings. visualize your speech. And then the most important part, I'll say it one more time, the most important part is to give your speech. I think a lot of us skip that step. We do everything up to that point. Oh wait, I didn't quite have that last part down. I'm going to do it next week. Or my opener's not quite where I want it to be, so I'm going to do it next week. And then next week turns into next month. And next month turns into next season. And the cycle continues. So the most important part is the last one, is give your speech. I look at it this way for me. When I give a speech, I don't want to come up here and make mistakes. I get nervous. But would you rather come up here and make your mistakes and be nervous in front of us, where it's a nice, friendly environment, where you get feedback? Or would you rather give your speech for the first time, or make those mistakes for the first time in front of a potential employer or a group of people who might be giving you a paycheck or a commission check? I know which one I would rather do, because here you get the feedback. Outside of Toastmasters, you either get a check or you don't. You have no idea why. It's okay to be nervous when you speak. A lot of us think that nervous is bad. If I come up here and I'm nervous, there's something wrong with me. Well, it's not. Everyone gets nervous. It's what you do when you're nervous. How do you push on, like Winston Churchill did? It's okay to be nervous. So now the next time someone asks you, are you nervous before you give a speech, you can say yes, and you can know that's a good thing. Part of this speech, too, is from the manual. It's a 2 to 3 minute question-answer section. So if anyone has any questions for 2 to 3 minutes, then I answer them. So does anyone have any questions?
Did you prepare the speech yourself?
Yes, I prepared it myself.
But you had to do research.
Yes. Yeah, I did some research on it, and some of it was from personal experience, and some of it finding websites. The hardest part was trying to find credible websites, because you can type in fear of public speaking, why people are afraid, and you get all these article sites and a site, and anyone can put it up there, so it's not really going to be reliable. So that was one of the hard parts, is finding the reliable sources.
It was a very good.
Thank you.
Okay, question about Winston, the fact about Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Was that reliable source to do that?
Well, if Dan were here, I hope he could come in and say this is where he got it from. So it's secondhand from Dan, which he normally sits there, that's why I'm pointing like this. So hopefully I could say yes, it's a very reliable source.
Which source?
For Winston Churchill with Dan Borders, I've heard him say that numerous times.
He did yesterday. Quoted again.
Okay.
Arthur Hughes. I don't know
Okay,
the first name, but anyway, he told about the book Arthur Hughes. Did you use notes? Did you organize? How did you organize your notes? That's one of my for the speaking for your speech.
What I did when I organized my notes to make points, main points, and what I do is I try to make sure I know what my main points are, so that if I get lost somewhere, I can just skip on to the next main point. If I have it word for word that I'm going to be reading, and then if I get lost, I have to find my spot again. It's really, really obvious when I get lost. And then if I get lost bad enough, I won't know where I'm at. So if I have the main points, if I get lost, no one knows them. Like, I could have gotten lost in the speech, and I'm not telling one. Because no one would know. So the most important part of the organization is think, what's the one thing I want people to take away from this? What do I want them to take away? And then just start structuring it around that. It's kind of like with the speech, when I have a good foundation, like for a house. A lot of times when we try to make a speech, we start with a window. We start with a line, we try to build the house around the window, and that doesn't work very well. So what you have to do is find what you want to talk about, which is not being nervous, or it's okay to be nervous when you speak, and then just talk around that. It's easier to do than if I pick a headline or an intro line or a conclusion and try to give my speech around that. It's much harder.
So basically, you have kind of memorized it or remember what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I have the intro memorized, the conclusion memorized, and then the main points, and then I kind of know what I want to talk about. So the whole thing is I've got like 30% of it memorized. Because the order doesn't, if you memorize it, you worry about the order, And then if you get one thing slightly wrong in order, then you stop, and everyone knows like you stopped because then you messed up the order. But if you just say it how you naturally talk, it doesn't matter if it's like I went to the store yesterday, or yesterday when I went to the store I got. It doesn't really matter how you say it; it just comes across. But if you pause, then it puts emphasis on that. So one more question.
Before your speeches, so when you prepare it, do you actually at home present it to friends or family, or do you just come here and speak it for the first time? Do you have someone else review it at home as a rehearsal?
Yeah. What I do is, give me a second, so I'll finish. This will be the last question. What I do is I prepare it. I go in my room and I just say it out loud a few times, and then I just come here and say I can wait, but I'll just do it here, and then get the feedback, and then do it again and again. And that's kind of how I prepare is by coming here. That's all the time I have questions for us. So thank you.